Hello and welcome to the next part of It Gets So Lonely Here. Last time we had a lot of fun over on the shore with a mermaid. We had a lot of very nice overnight talks with her. And she really was nice, just seemed to miss other humans a lot. But then she decided to drown us, so... Well, oopsie. That was something. So yeah, let's try our luck instead by going to the castle this time. What can go wrong? Going buried alive? Being drowned? What kind of end awaits us at the castle? So you want to go to the castle? Good idea. All decent fairy tales tend to conclude in castles when their beleaguered, put-upon heroines are finally able to wed the handsome princes they once dreamed of. Why bother trying your luck with the shore, which may very well be deserted, or the village, which will be full of dirty and barefoot peasants? It is far better to skip the suffering and go straight to the grand finale. Oye. Though I do feel I did a good choice at, having it last. That is very astute of you. I did not realize you had it in you to be so mercenary. I can only wonder what you will uncover during your moonlight meanderings. The night is far from over, and your adventures are only just beginning. I hope only that you have brushed up on your courtesies. They might come in handy when one is interacting with a sovereign. Royals can be temperamental, after all. If you fail to treat them with the prerequisite amount of respect, you might come to regret it. I have a feeling this is not gonna be what the problem will be, Oopsie. It might have to do with grief again. I would not be surprised if it was about grief again. You follow the path which leads to the castle, supporting yourself on weary, aching legs, which feel ready at a moment's notice to detach from your hips. You are a little more than a wisp of a girl, but you have been running for so very long. When your feet are so very numb, you feel like a great, lumbering thing, clumsy and ungainly. The soles of your feet are screaming at you. You need to lie down, and quickly. You only hope as you continue to run that you will find a spare room available to you in the castle. You do not know what, exactly, will await you at the castle, but you have visions, as you run, of a vast, opulent dwelling. This dwelling will surely be full of finely furnished rooms in which you might rest your weary head. There must also be a king and a queen inside this castle. You ponder, who will be kind and wise? And what of their children? What of a princess? Every good castle must possess a princess who will take pity on you and your plight. Can imagine the face of this generous princess with ease, thanks to the fairy tales you read in abundance as a small child. The princess will be fair of hair and blue of eye, with soft pink lips pursed like rosebuds. Her limbs will be slender, her hands dainty, unsullied from the physical labor, and her sensibilities will be sweeter than marzipan. She will be kind to you and compassionate, just like an older sister. You do not know what older sisters are like, though, or younger sisters, for that matter. You are only guessing. You're not a complete fool, however, despite your tendency to daydream, and you do have a few reservations. Monarchs do not, as you know from Vocarious reading have the best track record when it comes to caring for the peasantry. Was there not a very famous queen who once said, with a cavalry wave of a hand, that the hungry peasants in the kingdom should content themselves with cake if bread was not an option? You think that this might be a misquote, but the point still stands. Though royals are supposed to grant their subjects succor in their time of need, this does not always happen. In fact, it very rarely happens. Kings and queens and princesses and princes are just people at the end of the day, and they are subject to the same caprice that all humans are. They can be careless and selfish and inconsiderate. There's no guarantee that this mythical princess of your imagination will help you. Why, there's no guarantee that this mythical princess exists at all. Still, you must try. It is this hope which keeps you going. You continue to run to the castle. It takes some time before you finally emerge from the woods, but finally you do it. How much time, you ask? I cannot answer that. Did I not say that time had begun to lose all its meaning? You did, I think 2 times. The forest is behind you now, at least, and all the awful nightmares which dwelt in it. It is still cold, though, and foggy, and very, very dark. The sun has yet to rise. You can see the moon more clearly now, though as it hangs above your head, round as any pearl or orb or crystal ball. The moonlight shines down upon the castle, which looms in front of you like a cliffside. It sure is a big castle, isn't it? The castles back at home are not very impressive, to say the least. The stone edifice of the building is imposing, and it drowns you in shadows darker than the depths of the deepest ocean. The castle is not dark, not at all dark, though, not like the night sky above it. When you crane your head, you can see that there are lights flickering within, in the narrow, slitted windows. It would appear that somebody is home. The king and the queen, perhaps? Well, hopefully also their servants. What of their servants? What perhaps more pressingly of their guards? You half expect as you stand there that armored knights will accost you for daring to approach the castle of King and Queen so-and-so. Do you not know your place, foolish peasant girl with dirty skirt? Begone with you. You are not, of course, a peasant. Your family is a wealthy one, or rather, they were, before your father made a series of poor financial decisions. You do not look like a young lady right now, though, with your dirty face and your dirty skirt, which is torn at the hem. If any guards were to take you for a vagrant, it would not be surprising. Though you stand there differing, your filthy fingers hooked in front of your filthy skirt, you do not hear any cries. Nobody sounds the alarm. Lights might be on inside the castle, but there's nobody outside its perimeter standing sentry. There's nobody to impede your entry, and the elaborate iron gates which are set into the vast stone walls about the castle exterior are open just a crack. It would be a trivial matter to slip inside. There's nobody to stop you. Why are you trembling now, you silly thing? You have come so very far, it would be an act of foolishness to turn around now. Go on, go. You inhale, perhaps in an attempt to screw up your courage, which has at long last begun to fail you. And then you step forwards. You slide between the wrought iron gates, as stealthily and as secretive as a thief, and then cross the path which leads up the tall, imposing structure. The domed doorway, which leads into the castle itself, hemmed from stone, is closed, but at a push of your palm it swings inward. The door creaks alarmingly as it opens, a sound loud enough to split the silence like a thunderclap. You inhale at this and glance around. Your eyes start to hiver and thinner. If there are any guards posted about the castle grounds, they should have all been alerted by that sound. Will they come for you at long last? What will happen should they catch you? Will they throw you in the dungeons? That does not sound like a pleasant way to spend the night. At least you would have a roof over your head, though, and you would not have to keep walking. That's true. Your feet really do ache. You stand there for an indeterminable amount of time, your heart pounding a panicked, irregular rhythm in the base of your throat. But no matter how much time elapses, no guards come. You are thankful for your good luck, though it does make you wonder. Where is everybody? Why, it is almost as if all the people in the world have disappeared. Could you be the very last human left alive? Well, we at least have proof that that is not the case. At least that. Not much of a comfort, though, considering the people who are left. You frown and press your palm against the door. You push less cautiously this time, heedless of the loud sound which splits the silence. There is no point in worrying about the guards, not when they might very well be non-existent. Your entry to the castle secured, you then take a step forwards. The door swings shut behind you, and the resultant slam makes you jump. You did not expect it. Your heart knocks against your ribs, and with wild eyes you glance about. You are standing in a vast entry hall made of stone, which splits off into any number of passages. At the very end of the hall, meanwhile, there is a large, elaborate staircase, one which seems to extend to the heavens themselves. It is dark inside the hall, but there are numerous torches, set in sconces on the stone wall, which are aflame. They offer some relief from the shadows. You can hear the faint sound of the wind outdoors as it moans against the castle's imperious walls, but you cannot hear any footsteps. You cannot hear any voices. You cannot, more importantly, hear any people. Maybe this castle is empty. If that is the case, though, who lit these torches? It is a curious conundrum. You muster up what remains of your courage, then cry out, addressing the empty hall in timorous voice which fails to properly fill up the space. Hello, you say, with your eyes wide. Is anybody there? Your voice echoes through the vast empty hall, but it is met yet again with silence. You cannot say you are too surprised, but it is somewhat disappointing. Not one to be deterred, you try again and again, your voice growing louder with each subsequent attempt. No matter how loud your voice, however, it fails to reach any ears. If anybody is here, they do not seem to be particularly sociable. That, or perhaps they simply cannot hear you. Could they be in another room? Yes, that must be it. You will never find that pretty fairy tale princess of your imagination if you stand idly by, you know. It is time to get to work. Put those legs of yours to good use. Not knowing what else to do, is there anything else you can do? You begin to explore. You examine the rooms first on the ground floor of the castle, which are of similar scale to the impressive entrance hall. Large and richly furnished, but utterly unoccupied. After some time of aimless metering, encountering nobody save the ghost of aeons past memorialized on the portraits upon the walls, you muster the courage to ascend to the second floor. This floor too you examine, wandering through a seemingly endless series of hallways until at long last you find a door which is ajar. From between the crack in the door and the jamb, you can see flickering lights. Irregular, yes, but it is light none of the less. Could it be from a fireplace? That would suggest then that this room is occupied, unlike all the others. Perhaps the kindly princess you dreamed of will be awaiting you in this room. It is with a trembling hand that you press your palm against the door. You push it. Then you step inside the bedchamber which unveils itself to you. Shyly you stand in the threshold of the chamber, much of your courage extinguished in gasp. The bedroom itself is gorgeous. It is a chamber so luxuriant, not even the shadows can obscure the fine craft of the furniture within it, nor the rich patterns on the walls. It is the girl inhabiting the chamber, however, who truly takes your breath away. It is the princess? Question mark, question mark, question mark. She does seem very well dressed, at least. Sitting upon the velveteen sheets of the towering four-poster is the girl in serpentitious red gown, who seems to be of a like age to you. You do not have a clear view of the girl's face. Her head is bowed, her gaze directed downwards at her lap. You can tell from her hair, however, and from her slender calves, which protrude from beneath the hem of her dress, that she is very pretty. The girl's hair is golden, just like a freshly cut weed, but it is the red of her dress which truly captures your attention. She is so striking you cannot look away from her. Creepy doll. Creepy doll. The girl is not alone in her chamber either. She has a companion, though this companion is not half so endearing as she. On her lap, perched upon her velvet dress, a skirt, is a doll. The doll's hair, like that of her mistress, is golden, though much of it is hidden beneath a bonnet. The girl is adjusting the china teacup held in the doll's tiny hand, while the rim of the cup glints in the light which exudes from the fireplace. If the girl is of a similar age to you, it seems strange that she would content herself by playing with dolls. Is she not too old for it? This girl would be more at home, you decide, at a ball, wearing an extravagant gown, speaking with wealthy noblemen, perhaps even princes. She should not be sitting in what you presume is her bedchamber, adjusting a teacup in a doll's hand. But you are not afforded much more time to stand there, marveling at the girl, because she turns. She raises her head. Then her eyes meet yours. You thought the girl pretty when you first observed her, sitting on the edge of her plush, velveteen bed, examining her doll. Now she is looking at you, however, her face illuminated by the flames in her grate. You can see that you were mistaken. She's not just pretty. She is beautiful, so much so it is breathtaking. She looks as though she has stepped out of the pages of a picture book. She is simply too perfect to belong to this world. Perhaps she's some kind of vision, a waking dream, a hallucination. But no, she is none of those things. The doll on her lap is a cold, hard thing made of porcelain, and it is unflinchingly, reassuringly real. If she were a mirage, Surely she would not be able to handle physical objects such as this. It is strange, though. The doll, although immaculately made, looks oddly imperfect when compared to the girl who is holding it. She is so startlingly beautiful. She even puts man-made representation of feminine charms to shame. The sight of her makes you feel rather weak. You've always had a fondness for fain maidens, haven't you? You are rather hopeless when it comes to them, even worse than a knight-errant from a courtly legend. Your aesthetic appreciation is not particularly ladylike, but, well, it is not every day a girl encounters an elegant beauty like this, attired in red, illuminated by the firelight. I suppose I can forgive you for this rudeness, as too can the girl. She does not seem to be the type to hold a grudge. She looks like an oh-ho-ho girl, but like more brattier. I guess then I will give her a brattier voice as well then. Oh! The girl says in a voice that's surprisingly enough far less refined in appearance. It's good to see you. I've been waiting. Has she? That is news to you. Okay. Maybe she always finds a lot of lost girls around the castle and then they go missing. Maybe she bathes in the blood. Who knows? You blink, perplexed. A response on the tip of your tongue, but you are unable to expel it to the ether. The girl is setting her doll aside. Then she stands, the hem of her dress swishing about her legs. Nimbly, like a ballerina, she canvasses the space between you. Her room is so very large, there's quite a lot of space, and takes your hand in her own. I see, a misunderstanding. You must, the girl says, her eyes aglow with excitement, be my new lady's maid. It's been a while, but it has been such a relief that you finally arrived. I knew that you would. You would never leave me alone, not when you knew how long I was waiting. Oh, I am so happy. The girl's good mood is contagious, so much so you find yourself being swept away in it. You are tempted to accept any identity she might press upon you. You have never been a maid before, but you might not mind being this girl's maid. I mean, you have said you are from a good, wealthy house, so it wouldn't be that strange to be a maid of, or like a lady-in-waiting for a princess. She does not seem like a poor mistress to serve, not if she's always this kind. You cannot mask the confusion, however, which flickers across your face. You are not a good enough actress, and in any case, this is all happening too quickly. Why, you barely even know this girl. Why is she being so familiar? It is with a blank, bovine eyes that you examine the girl. Your befuddlement is pronounced enough that even the girl, despite her good mood, notices it. She frowns. Yeah, she does seem a bit bratty. Then she says, her fingers sliding away from your own. Or am I mistaken? Are you not my new lady's maid after all? The disappointment in this girl's face is abundant, so much so your heart clenches. You do not know her. She is still a stranger. But you are struck, all of a sudden, with an intense desire to appease her. You do not want to let her down. The thought is devastating. You are not aware, you tell her, that you had applied to be her maid, but if that is what she wills, you would not be opposed to it. You pray that she forgives you, though, for your discombobulation. You come from a distant country, and you have traveled for many miles. You know not where you are, and you do not know who she is. What? You don't know who I am? It is regrettable, you tell her, but no, you do not know her. No, that is no fault of her own. Why, you have spent such a long time running, you hardly even know yourself. Ah, so you're a fugitive then? From another country? I see. I won't pry into your past then, if you would rather forget it. I don't mind sharing my past with you, though. Everybody in this country knows who I am, after all, or at least they should. Well, I think a lot of your subjects in the relative area are dead. They are very dead. No, this is quite an impressive boast. If it were to come from the lips of another, you would find it unpleasantly arrogant. You do not think, however, that this girl is trying to show off? You get the feeling instead that she is merely telling the truth. If you don't have the pleasure of knowing me, then allow me to do the honors. My father and my mother were the king and queen of this realm, and I am its princess. I've lived in a castle all my life, so I don't know much about the outside world, but I know that other countries do exist out there. I see. You haven't got much of an education then, I assume, as a princess who was supposed to govern someday. I presume it is one of those foreign countries that you come from? It is very good to meet you. I've always wanted to talk to somebody from overseas. It feels like quite an opportunity. The girl giggled at this, and you smile in response. You tell her unthinkingly that it is your pleasure, really, to meet her, or at least you mean to. You only get halfway through this remark when the full gravity of what the girl has told you sinks in. You come to a stop. Then you stare. Did she just say she was a princess? Ah, yes. Our protagonist's weakness. Yes, that's right. I'm a princess, and one day I'll be a queen, after I've done a little bit of growing up. My ministers don't think I'm ready to run the country just yet, but I've been doing my best at my lessons. One day I'm sure I'll be the best queen there ever was. I recommend then stepping outside the castle first. Though I suppose that is not your fault, but like whoever is teaching you. So she really is a princess. That makes sense, you suppose, given she lives in a castle, but it comes off as a surprise regardless. You hadn't known before you entered the chamber that you were trespassing on a lady of such great renown. Why, if she willed it, she could have executed you for your carelessness. An ugly red flush creeps up your face, a flush which is far more lurid than the princess's dress, as you look to your feet. Bashfully, you stammer out a new address, that you are very sorry for intruding upon her, and you hope that she can forgive you. Oh, it's all right. Think nothing of it. I don't mind, really. We all make mistakes, and anyway, you weren't to know. You said you weren't from around here. You nod your head in silent affirmation. It isn't a complete lie. You really are not from this country. You are not from this world at all. Oh, this is an isekai? This is an isekai? Oh, wonderful. I'll look forward to picking your brain later. All of my servants come from the nearby village. The tales are all the same, and so are the superstitions. I could do with a breath of fresh air. The last lady's maid told me that I was too impetuous, and I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting a bit of adventure. Not that I've ever been afforded much of that. I've been shut up in here for so long, I hardly ever get a chance to talk to other girls my age. My last lady's maid was older than me, and so was the one before her, and the one before her. Some of the princess's fair mood seems to dissipate as she speaks, her expression turning, by degrees, into something rather more pensive. But I haven't seen any of my old lady's maids in a while, or any of the other servants for that matter. They are probably all dead. Dead. From the pandemic. From the plague. They've all disappeared. Now, that is quite curious. How could a whole household full of servants simply disappear? That I don't know. This castle was full of servants once. My lady's maids, and my undermaids, and the scullery maids, and the housekeeper, and my cooks, and the large retinue of retainers. They're all gone now, though. I think my ministers must have sent them away. I don't know why they would have done that now. They didn't explain it to me. But then again, they never explained anything to me. They still treat me like a little girl. It is so tiring. She said that the ministers sent her servants away. What of her parents, the king and the queen? Would they not be the ultimate authorities in the castle hierarchy? They would, yes, if they were still alive, but they're not. They died a long time ago. I was raised for most of my life by my servants. Oh, you answer and then you flush. You hadn't known. That's alright, you don't need to apologize. I'm just happy that I have you now. I was getting sick and tired of only having my dolls to speak to. They aren't the best conversational partners. Question, are your ministers still alive? When did you last see them? Like, Taking a sip. You can imagine so, yes. Without any doll, even one made from talented artisan, with an intelligent face indistinguishable from a human's, would be very good at answering back. Oh no, they aren't. They're hopeless at it, really. They're so stony-lipped. You have no idea how much of a relief it is to see you. This castle is so big, and without any servants it feels so very empty. It gets so lonely here. Again. No, that is an interesting turn of phrase. It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? You do not have much time to ponder this, however, because the princess is speaking anew in that curiously conversational manner of hers, which does not seem particularly princessy. Maybe she learned how to speak from her servants. That would explain why her consonants are so unrefined. Oh, but you must listen to me, yammering on again. It's a bad habit. I really must put a stop to it. You're probably tired, dear one, from your travels. Would you like me to show you to your room? Yes, the princess announces, before you can say anything in reply. I think I'll just do that. I might show you around a bit, around the castle first, though. It's like a maze in here, and I wouldn't want you to getting lost. You'll be staying here for quite some time, after all. Quite some time. The princess then hastens to take you to a tour of her home. Fortunately, she does not show all of the rooms in her abode, and neither does she offer overly long descriptions as to what the few rooms she does show you are used for. She does, however, pause by the kitchens, where she offers you some victuals, Once the growling in your belly has been satisfied, the princess then resumes her journey. She leads you down a dark and twisting hallway and up a series of equally dark twisting steps until she arrives at long last before a door. The princess pushes this door aside summarily, thus permitting you entrance to a small, humble bedchamber. This chamber is not half so opulent as the grand bedroom in which the princess resides, which is resplendent for posters and its richly patterned wallpaper. This room's ceiling is not as high, and the singular bed shaft against the wall is thin and narrow. Though I guess what did you expect? The walls are of an unassuming beige, and the floor beneath your soles is of warped wood. There's a malodorous scent too, which hangs on the air, one of disuse and general decay. You get the feeling that nobody has slept in this room for quite some time. That might explain why it feels so very cold in here. Though, if the princess's tour of her castle has taught you anything, it is that it is cold in every room in her boat. Now here we are, the final step of our tour. This will be your room, dear one. I hope it is to your liking. The princess, despite her exalted status, looks somewhat uneasy as she observes you, her eyes upturned like those of loyal dogs. Is she concerned about your reaction to this room? Perhaps she is afraid that you will turn up your nose at her kindness. For a princess, she is awfully eager to please. And this unexpected contrast between the princess's lofty title and her ingrating attitude makes you smile. The room is rather scanty, yes, when it comes to its contents, but it is more than passable. I mean, like, at the shore and at the village, what you were offered there was, like, so much worse. It has a roof and 4 walls, and though it is cold, you fancy you will feel warmer once you have slipped beneath the bed sheets. And, like, isn't that a fireplace there in the background? I think it is. The room is not quite so fancy as your dormitory at the conservatoire, and neither is it so large, but it does have one glaring improvement over your previous lodgings. You will not be expected to share it with anybody else. There's only one bed in this room, and this bed is to belong to you. You think that the peace and the quiet will do you a world of good. You tell the princess as much, and she smiles. That's good. I was worried you wouldn't like it. I know it isn't much to look at, but it's one of the nicest servant rooms we have in the castle. Most of the maids sleep beneath the roof in this teeny tiny room, which is all cramped. There's 10 beds up there, and they're so close together, there's barely any room to pass between them. I thought it was perfectly ghastly when I saw it the last time I went up there. Not that I was supposed to be up there. It was a rainy day and I couldn't go outdoors, so I was doing a bit of exploring. If the housekeeper had known I'd been skulking around, I don't think she would have been best pleased. Well, in any case, nobody sleeps up there anymore. The scullery maids are all gone now. I couldn't put you up there, though, in the attic, with all those empty beds. I don't think it would have been very cheery. You're not just a scullery maid, you're my lady's maid. That means you deserve good lodgings. It would be an insult to offer you anything less than this. Now it's getting late. You'll have to forgive me for rabbiting on. I've heard it's something I tend to do. It's a bad habit, one that's unbecoming for a lady. Like, I'm guessing, like, probably teachers and the ministers have been scolding you about this, because it would have been weird if the maids did so. The housekeepers want me enough times. The housekeeper? Well, you certainly... well, I guess you probably would have turned out more arrogant if the servants didn't also keep you in line, I guess. He reassured the princess to the contrary, smiling as you do. You do not mind if she talks too much, that is better than not talking at all. Her affable nature makes it easier to spend the time with her, manners be damned. You are always scolded too, back in a conservatoire, for your behavior. You know full well how aggravating it can be to be upbraided, not for any particular misdemeanor, but for being yourself. Oh, well, I'm glad you understand, the princess answers with a giggle. I really should be off though, it's bad manners to keep you, especially when you look so sleepy. Get some rest, we can talk more tomorrow, if you don't mind my careless prattle. I'm glad you seem to appreciate it at least. Now I'm sure you'll get tired of it eventually, all of my old mates did. And where are those mates now? The princess departs, and in her absence you take a seat upon the bed. Your new bed. You cannot help but think that this is happening very quickly. It does not seem like very long ago that you were still in the forest, running for your life among the tall, imposing trees with the gnarled, grasping branches. Forest might as well be a distant memory now, though. You are indoors, inside a castle no less. And you have been given room in which to sleep and clothes that you might wear. It seems premature still to declare that you are out of the woods, in a metaphorical sense I mean, but things could certainly be worse. You force yourself to stand on legs which feel too weary to support you, and change into the night clothes hanging on the wardrobe. The night clothes do not fit you perfectly, but you are too tired to care about that. You are too tired to care much about anything. You retreat to the bed and slide beneath its sheets. And then you let your eyelids fall shut. You exhale. And lulled by the breeze which blows outdoors, you fall asleep. You are so very tired. Your sleep is a deep, dark one, darker even than the furthest abyss of the nighttime. Like the nighttime sky, however, which shimmers with stars, your sleep is not devoid of those prismatic fragments you humans call sleep. Though in this case, I rather think your nocturnal imaginings are worth rather more than that. Narrator, you're not a human. Because yeah. You are talking like you're not one human. They are not dreams, are they, to which your slumbering mind is subjected? You know that they are not. Otherwise your body would not be so very cold, not so clammy. The images that flicker beneath your closed eyelids, like the ghostly images in a phenakiscope, I do not know what that is, were not conjured from within your mind. They were instead taken from your memories. You are not merely dreaming, you are remembering. You remember the girls who slept in your dormitory, and how they always hastened you to shower first, so you were last for breakfast. You remember how, when you finally did arrive at the dining hall, the most desirable morsels had already been snaffled up by the girls who got there earlier. You struggled too to find a seat once you finally did get your hands on some food, because nobody ever wanted to sit with you. The other girls all acted like you were a leaper, save for when they wanted favors. They never asked for these favors, mind you, for why would they? To them, your father's prestige did not matter. They were all wealthy ladies too, many of them wealthier than you. When everybody has the airs and graces of a princess, how is anybody supposed to stand out? You stood out the least in your class, perhaps because you were one of the smallest, the frailest, the sickliest, who always came down with colds in the winter. Your poor health did not stop the other girls from treating you as a servant though, when they remembered that you existed, of course. It was your lot in life, as you dwelled within the stone walls of the conservatoire, to carry school bags across the field like a pack mule. Then come the evenings, the girls in your dormitory had you sewing on missing buttons and ironing out the creases and wrinkles in their uniforms. If there was an odd job that needed performing, you would always be asked. But these girls did not ask you. That would have been way too civilized. They ordered you instead, and if they ordered you, they laughed at you. They laughed and they laughed and they laughed. The laughter hurt, but it hurt considerably less than the kicks did, and the slaps and the pinches. Once during an embroidery lesson, one of your classmates had an accident with her sewing scissors. She stumbled, or at least she pretended to, and before you knew it, the silvery blades of those scissors were embedded into your left palm. Yeah. This happened quite some time ago, when you were even littler than you are now, but you can still remember it. It hurt a lot. The scissors were sharp and they perforated your skin, not all the way down to the bone, but enough to bleed. Your wound bled bright red, like strawberry jam, all over your embroidery. Then, when your professor saw it, she shrieked. Her face turned pale as way, and she looked for a few moments as though she might faint, though you were the one who was in pain. The professor looked at your face. She could not bear to look at your hand, then demanded to know why you could not have been more careful. Her tone had been an accusatory one, almost as if you had stabbed yourself in the hand with your scissors to goad her. The pain in your hand hurt, but the giggles of your persecutors hurt all the more. Drinking? They were never punished for that. Perhaps your professor did not care enough to punish them. Perhaps she, like everybody else, found it was all your fault. The wound, when all was said and done, was not too deep. You did not even need any stitches. It healed well enough in time on its own, though it still left a scar. A white, raised thing, like a crescent moon. You still have that scar. You do not know how much blood you lost. It seemed like a lot back in the classroom. You could smell it in the air, sharp as iron. But it could not have been that much, evidently. If your wound had been more serious, perhaps your professor might have cared. Perhaps your classmates too would have felt some modicum of guilt over what they did. But this seems very unlikely. You know that your blood meant nothing to your classmates. Why should it? If you meant next to nothing, then the blood in your veins was, if such a thing is possible, even more inconsequential. You feel disoriented when you awake, at long last with the rising of the sun. You do not remember what you dreamt, but you do not think that your dreams were of a particularly pleasant note. If they were, your heart would not be hammering so. Ill at ease, you glance around. You are lying in a narrow bed in an unremarkable room, one with dull beige walls and a warped wooden floor. Where exactly are you? This does not look like your dormitory in the conservatoire, not unless it has shrunken threefold overnight. Your brow furrows as you attempt to recall the events of the night prior, until with a gasp it all clicks into place. You remember now. You were running through the woods, trying to escape from... From what? You shudder. You do not want to think of what it was you were trying to escape from. You presume that you must have given your hunter the slip though, because you are still in one piece, awake and alert enough to face the dawning of a new morning. You still have all your limbs, and your facial features appear to be in the correct configuration. That is more than enough to be getting along with. You look at the foot of your bed, then blink, bemused at your discovery. You can see lying upon the sheets a garment, 2 garments actually, of black and white, folded into a neat white square. What could it be? A maid's uniform? If so, it would not be too surprising. You can now recall your visit with the princess the night prior, and her assertions that you must be a lady's maid. Well, if that is your role she wants you to assume, you have no qualms with it. It is far preferable to the other role you played last night, that of the quarry, running from its pursuer. You press your fingers against the humble maid's attire. It feels surprisingly soft to the touch, not coarse like you expected. These clothes are rather fine. The princess put them there. If so, that is all more reason to wear them. You're not churlish enough to deny her hospitality. You rise from your new bed, then undress yourself, unbuttoning the front of your plain white nightgown, setting at the side. This task accomplished, you then clad yourself in your new attire, black, white, and eminently sensible. You feel very far away from the girl that you once were. Your face might be the same as always, but something within you seems to have changed. You are no longer a student, not as long as you meant to reside within the princess's castle. You would far rather be her servant. I mean, normally, if this were a different game, I would say, indeed, this seems to be a much better place than wherever you are from. So definitely stay here instead. But, well, we know how this will go, right? We know that this will not end well. Assured of your newfound identity, you retreat from your chamber, then make your way to your mistress's bedroom. The castle is a large one with many rooms and many hallways to connect them, and for a brief while you find yourself horrendously lost. You cannot remember where the princess's bedroom is. Yeah, it was also kinda dark last night. You are beginning to feel rather disoriented when, to your relief, your eyes nag upon a stairwell which looks rather familiar. Could this be the way? You ascend these steps, your footfalls cushioned by the plush carpet which lines them, and find your way down the very same hall you traversed the night prior. If your memory does not fail you, then the princess's bedroom ought to be... Yes, it is here. You rap upon the door, but receive nothing in the way of a response. Is the princess still abed? You wonder briefly whether you oughtn't wait until she has risen of her own accord. But no. The sun is high in the sky, and it would seem a shame to let the princess sleep throughout the day. You ought instead to rouse her. It seems like the sort of duty a lady's maid should attend to. You enter the princess's bedroom and glance about. The room looks much the same as you remembered from the night prior, though the ceiling seems even higher when viewed in the wan morning's light. You can see, now that there are fewer shadows to impede your view, how very opulent your young mistress's abode is. The armor is large and imposing, as it is the grate in which you will be expected to keep a fire lit during the nights. The princess herself, meanwhile, is curled up on her side beneath the sheets, looking rather less grandiose than the title would suggest. She is attired in a nightgown adorned with frills, and her hair is split across the pillow like a spilled gold. In her slender arms, meanwhile, held to her chest, is a doll, the very same one she was cosseting last night. Is that comfortable? A porcelain doll? Well, whatever. I think I think the princess needs a plush instead. You suppose this doll must be her favorite. Idly, you wonder what the doll's name is, though you do not suppose it matters all that much. It is time to wake your mistress. You call out to the princess, but she is largely unresponsive. Her eyelashes are still sewn tightly shut, and her lips pursed in slumber. You purse your lips too and sigh. Well, nobody ever said your job would be easy. Once again you call to the princess, and this time she replies. Her response is not a favorable one, however. She sighs, then turns away from you, her doll clutched to her chest. Just give me a little longer. The princess sounds so enfeebled that you do not take pity on her. If you have learned anything from the conservatoire, save for the knowledge pertaining to the respiratory tracts of the fish, it is that one must be cruel to be kind. You do not think this adage was practiced with any great success in the conservatoire, but perhaps it will be more of an impact upon the princess. You tell her once again to wake up, more sternly this time. You will not let her sleep, for she has slept long enough already. It is very slovenly, really, to still be abed at such an hour. Oh, defeated, the princess sighs. Alright, I can see that I can twist you around my little finger. Oh, her own sprite with a nightgown. I'm up. You don't need to nag me. Once you have roused the princess from her bed, you have put her doll to one side. You sat upon her toilet. You aid the princess in the brushing of her hair, a chore to which she submits willingly, like a cat might allow its fur to be brushed. You allow yourself to ponder as you run the bristles of the princess's brush through her hair, how wonderfully soft it feels against your skin. But a curious query from the princess, "Are you alright, dear one?" brings you back to your senses. You were rather lost in thought there. Look lively now. You wouldn't want the princess to catch wind of your delicious thoughts, would you? I thought that you had learned your lesson about that already. Suitably chastened, you finish with the princess's hair and then set the brush aside. Now the princess's tresses have been taken care of, you must start on her attire. The princess remains seated upon the edge of her bed, looking up at your escadence. She does not ask you to avert your eyes, and nor does she make any motion of divesting herself of her nightgown. She really does seem as though she expects you to undertake this task on your own. Is that alright? You ask the princess as much. You would not wish to impinge upon her modesty, but she only laughs. Yes, that's alright. It's what you're supposed to do if you're my lady's maid. I'm used to being dressed and undressed. I'm not a bit squeamish about it. She might not be squeamish about it, but you are. You have never seen a naked woman before accepting yourself. Even then, however, you have always dressed and undressed furtively, not wanting to examine your body for longer than it is strictly necessary. You have never much liked the way you look. You make a few more mumbled objections, but the princess sweeps them to one side easily. It's alright. I may be a princess, but we're both people underneath all of our clothes. I don't we look much different. You are not sure about that. You have not seen yet the princess unadorned, but you already know to look at her face that you are different. She is much, much prettier than you are. But she is waiting, and you do not wish to keep her any longer. You steady your nerves. Then you reach out with trembling hands. and you begin to undo the buttons which run down the front of the princess's nightgown. Now, I would also be very awkward about that. Not just like the having to undress another person, but also the fact that I've never ever dressed someone that isn't myself. Like, how the motions will be different and awkward. You walk as quickly as you are able to, which, given how badly your hands are shaking, is not very. Sippy sip. You fumble with a couple of buttons, flinching as you do so. The princess, however, seems blissfully unaware of what it is exactly you are doing, or not doing, for your fingers have begun to seize up with the front of her nightgown. She's not even looking at you. Instead, her gaze is directed beyond your shoulder to the windowsill, in the sky beyond it. It isn't particularly sunny, but I don't think it's too cold outside. Going for a walk might not be a bad idea. What do you think, dear one? You think that you would like to finish undressing the princess as soon as possible, so you can make progress undressing her again. The sight of all this exposed skin is bad for your heart. Fortunately, you are able to make quick work of the princess's nightgown despite your initial mishaps, spurred on perhaps by your anxiety. You bid the princess to stand, which she does, and neatly she steps out of her nightgown, emotions once again as graceful and as fluid as a dancer's. The task completed, you search hurriedly, worriedly for the princess's red dress. Where is it? You cannot find it. Sweat begins to prickle in the back of your neck. Your palms, meanwhile, feel uncomfortably clammy. Just ask her where she put her dress. The moments pass awkwardly, uneasily, as you search, the princess standing there all the while as naked as the day she was born. Why did you not find her dress? Why did you not find her day dress before you stripped off her night one? Good question, but hindsight is always 20/20. What a fool you are. The princess, noting your panic, giggles, then says, "Are you looking for my dress?" "Yes," you reply, your face flushed. "That is what you were doing." "I thought so. I did wonder, before you started undressing me, why you would not ask where it was. Maybe it slipped your mind." It had slipped your mind, yes, to your shame. We're too busy trying not to fixate upon the princess's bared skin to think about how to best conceal it. "My dress is in my armoire," the princess says, glancing over to the aforementioned piece of furniture. That armoire of hers is an intricately carved wood structure, large enough, or so you estimate, to fit inside enough dresses to attire a whole ballroom's worth of princesses. "I would like to wear the red one. It's my favorite. Would you be a dear one and fetch it for me? I don't want to rush you, but it is rather cold in here, especially when I'm still naked." She raises a good point. You turn away from the princess and make your way to her armoire. Once there, you open its wooden doors and peruse the clothes still hanging within. It is just as you expected. Inside that wardrobe lies numerous dresses, all of them finely sewn and decorated with no shortage of ribbons, lace, and iridescent pearls. You find the princess's red dress soon enough, then hurry to her side. With your spoons in hand, you hurry to dress her, concealing once again the princess's pale skin beneath the layers upon layers of soft red velvet. She's easier to look at now, you think, with her skin concealed. That might have been the most nerve-wracking task you have ever had to accomplish, even more so than your hilarious escape through the foggy forest. I see. Naked woman is a lot more stressful than running for your life. I see. Why, it seems a small miracle you can still remember how to breathe. Ah, that's much better. Thank you, dear one, for your help. You have not been here for a full day, but I already wonder what I would do without you. Surely you assured the princess that you did nothing, really. Nothing beyond your job. You did not do anything incredible. In any case, being complimented by somebody so pretty is embarrassing. Aw, don't be like that. I want to compliment you. Why shouldn't I when you have been so helpful? It would be rude not to, and anyway... I think you're very pretty too. Oh my. Your face flushes from this more deeply than ever before. You ought to count yourself lucky, really. What with all this excessive blushing, that the princess does not seem to possess any vampiric tendencies. What an interesting thing to say considering she has fangs. You're making yourself quite an easy target. Now, the princess declares, why don't we go for a walk? It's a nice enough day and I get so very bored of being cooped up inside. You can't think of any particular objections to raise to this remark, and you think that the princess might have a point. The castle, though expansive, is somewhat stifling. The walls are so very thick, they put you in the mind of a crypt. If her acquaintance assured, the princess quits her chamber, her posture elegant and her gait unhurried. She seems not to walk, but she navigates her way through the seamlessly endless hallways of her home, but to float like a cloud. The hem of her dress swishes around her legs, and her hair shifts like a shroud. The castle's courtyard, meanwhile, is sadly lacking in comparison to the princess's beauty. The courtyard is fenced in by the castle's walls, which look in this dark midday light tall and imposing, faceless soldiers standing sentinel. No, the sun is out. It is not particularly bright, neither is it particularly warm. Courtyard itself, meanwhile, is in a state of disarray. The flower beds are in shambles, all overgrown with weeds. It is all rather depressing. The princess's castle might be grand in scale, but the courtyard itself is simple, hemmed in to a claustrophobic degree, like a coffin. The princess, however, seems not to share your dolorous mood. She instead looks elated by her newfound surroundings, her smile unwavering. She gabbles about like a lamp, flittering hither and thither as she examines the weed-infested flower beds. Her frolicking comes to a cease, however, by a bush, one of fully bright red roses. Oh, how very pretty! Do you not think they are gorgeous, dear one? The flowers are not too disappointing, you suppose. She has standards. They make for a fine spectacle, in fact. A welcome splash of color when contrasted with the dullness and drabness which permeates the rest of the courtyard. Though the other flowers in the beds are wilted, withered things, it is not so for these roses. They are rich, bright red, just like blood, their heads so full they seemed almost to droop beneath the weight of their own engorged petals. They are very pretty, in a sense. But there's something unsettling about them too, something that is almost obscene. What is it? How did those roses become so very red? Maybe she's been feeding their mates to it. What has been sustaining them? Though, yeah, true, roses are rather... Aren't they super finicky? like really hard to raise because they need like a proper pH and like stuff. They are not weeds, they can't just grow anywhere. Could it be possible that these roses have been draining the life from the other flowers which are struggling to grow within this garden? It is a fanciful thought, but... Oh, they are simply divine! Looking at these roses always lifts my spirits. They really are my most favorite flowers. I simply must pick some of them. Perhaps I can use them to decorate my bedchamber. It could use a bit of color. The princess reaches out as to pluck one of the roses free from its resting place among the branches. Brethren, you watch her, your breath bated, anxious that the gesture might result in perforated flesh and bright red blood. But the princess is not as clumsy as you fear. Of course she is not. Who did you think she was? You? Rather than worrying about other people, you should better be served if you worried more about yourself. Princess holds a newly pilfered rose to her nose and inhales, her eyelids falling shut as the flower's sweet scent washes over her. A few moments of silence pass. Then the princess begins to toy with the petals which adorn the flower's crown. Now let me see. I wonder what fate has in store for me. She loves me. The princess plucks a petal from the flower's overburdened head. She loves me not. The princess continues with this childish incarnation, all the while stripping her rose slowly and methodically of its petals. These petals flutter about the princess like bloody snow. The princess's voice, meanwhile, echoes throughout the courtyard, even more melodic than the strains of a pianola. She loves me! She loves me not! She loves me! She loves me not! The princess's finger hovers over the final petal which crowns her nearly denuded flower. Then, with a triumphant smile, she declares, She loves me! I knew it! You watch the princess, amused by her girlish good cheer. The little mantra she has been reciting is one you are familiar with. The girls at the conservatoire also used to engage in this little game. The younger ones, at least, who believed that the fairy tale prince would whisk them away. You might have participated in this game yourself when you were a child yourself, but you never pinned your hopes and dreams on a handsome prince. Your interest in princes had always been minimal. She a lesbian, Harold. When it comes to fair princesses, though, well, that is a different matter altogether, isn't it? Well, lucky for you, this princess before you has used she. When going for the she loves me not thing, so... Pleasantly, you ask the princess whose love it is she wishes to court, a query which makes the princess giggle. Oh, dear one, who else would I be thinking of? Naturally, I was thinking of you. Naturally. She says it so easily, as though you ought to have suspected as much, and indeed, part of you did. You wanted to believe, yet part of you was afraid to. You did not want to be arrogant enough to assume that the princess might care for your affections. You begin to blush, your cheeks almost as red as the roses, while the princess laughs. She laughs and she laughs and she laughs, her voice clear and sweet like a nightingale's song, as though you are the funniest thing she has ever seen. You never liked being laughed at when you dwelt within the walls of the conservatoire, but it is different with her. You have not known her for all that long, but you are already entranced by her, and snared. She has you wrapped around her little finger. Oh my! The princess's laughter tapers off into a series of giggles, as smiling, she wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. That was quite an amusing diversion, but I've just had an idea. You look at the princess curiously. What idea? You can tell? You cannot even begin to guess. I just thought that all this watching must be boring to you, the princess says, tossing the rose's stripped stem carelessly to the ground. You should give it a try, please do. It will be fun. The princess retrieves a second red rose from the bushes, deftly snapping it between her fingers, and offers it to you. I want to see what fate has in store for you too. You smile at the princess, touched by her enthusiasm. Indulging in childish games like this might not be the best use of your time, but the princess looks so very determined you would not wish to hurt her. What could be the harm, really, in consenting? The only real casualty of this game will be one singular rose, the rose that the princess is holding towards you. Well, the way you are putting this is dangerous. You reach out, meaning to accept the princess's offering, but... Oh no! You are clumsy, and you seize the stem of the rose with a touch too much strength. The head of the rose might be pretty, but there's more to a rose than its bright red flowers. Roses have thorns too, a fact you are now being painfully reminded of. Pain flares through your fingers and you gasp. You take a step back, the hem of your skirt swishing around your ankles. Your finger is stinging, and so are your eyes. You ought to have been more careful. Why were you so stupid? You poor dear, you're bleeding! The princess exclaims, alarmed. Then she frowns. This is all my fault. If I had not suggested this silly game, this never would have happened. Please, let me take care of you. And how is she going to do that? Perhaps she means to take a handkerchief from her pocket, with which she might staunch your wound. Princesses tend to carry handkerchiefs around with them, don't they? Silken ones. How else would they give brave knights tokens of their gratitude, once these aforementioned knights have successfully slain dragons? Princesses can hardly disperse kisses as favors. It simply is not done. That is what you always thought, but... Please hold still. This might sting a bit. The princess is anything but ordinary. Is she gonna suck on her fingers? She is gonna. I know she will. I know she will. Rather than take a handkerchief out of her pocket, she instead encloses her white, slender fingers around your hand. Carefully, as though she's handling a precious object, she raises your hand. Her eyes are fixed, all the while on the beads of startlingly crimson blood which are oozing luridly from your wound. She licks her lower lip, then dips her head. Rose red, but your blood is redder. She has some nicely colored fingernails. Black and red, huh? She parts her mouth, and with a soft sigh which borders on the sensuous, she slips your injured digit between her teeth. Infections, infections! So much for princesses not dispersing kisses as tokens of appreciation. This might not be a conventional kiss, but feels intimate regardless, almost startlingly so. I would assume so. The princess's lips, which are as red as any rose, are enclosed around your index finger. You can feel the warmth of the princess's mouth about your skin and the wetness of it. These sensations make your whole body quake. You did not expect this. Tremendously in a voice which wavers, you ask the princess what she is doing. Oh? The princess glances up at you, her mouth still enclosed around your finger. Didn't I tell you? I'm trying to stop the bleeding. Yes, you gathered as much, but... Is there a problem? I'm not making you uncomfortable, am I? Well... well, our protagonist has to decide. It is not, you say, that she is making you uncomfortable per se. But this is rather awkward. You did not expect it, that is all. And is she not worried that this is unhygienic? Unhygienic? The princess blinks. She's the very picture of innocence. Which is funny, really, given your fingers are still nestled against her tongue. I don't know what you mean by that exactly. Well, if our protagonist was isekai, then I guess she really landed in a country where hygiene isn't, like, that pronounced yet. But I've heard this is the best way to take care of cuts. My nursemaid used to do this for me when I was a child. It's what you're supposed to do. And you ask, your voice catching in your throat, did a nursemaid kept staunching her wounds with her mouth when she grew older? Well, no, but my nursemaid was dismissed when I was 8 years old. That's the normal way of things. I had my lady's maids to look after me then. Oh, very interesting. And did they ever clean her wounds like this? No, the princess says, smiling mischievously. Because I'm not clumsy enough to cut myself, silly. No, that was quite a sharp retort. You did not expect it. Your face turns even redder, if such a thing is possible. Though this might perhaps be to your benefit. With some luck, all of your blood will flow to your face, rather than to your finger, and the bleeding will stop. Has it stopped? Your injury was not a deep one. There should be no need for the princess to keep on suckling, but she still is. You're not accustomed to intimacy of this nature. It is making your heart flutter. If the princess knew what her mouth was doing to you, you are sure she would not be so very familiar. Clearly the horniest route. You feel quietly, crushingly confident that she would scorn you for your feelings and deem them unnatural. No. 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 She would not. It would not be the first time. At this point, you should be used to rejection. It still stings, though. It stings much, much more than any fawn on any rose ever could. The days pass, following your misadventures to the rose garden in a relaxed, unhurried sort of manner. Your mad dash through the forest is beginning to feel like a distant memory, so much so you can scarcely recall the raw, naked fear you once felt as you fled for your life. There's no running to be had while you are working for the princess. You would have nowhere else to run, and in any event, there's no longer any reason to run. The shadows which once tormented you have at long last begun to recede. You can scarcely recall, as you lay down in your bed, the petty cruelties you were subjected to by your classmates at the conservatoire. They no longer matter. Your attention is focused not upon yourself, but upon the princess. The more time you spend with her, the more you come to care for her. You have become quite besotted with her, but you are yet to realize it. Well, I never. How very ignorant can one girl be of her own feelings? The princess is not half so arrogant as you are, though, despite having spent her whole life within the palace's walls. The weight of her own feelings are not unknown to her. and during one stormy night, she chooses to make them known to you. Oh, are we getting an actual, like, normal confession for the first time in this game? You are in the princess's chambers later, perhaps than you ought to be, later than it is strictly appropriate. It is dark outside, and there is little save the light of the moon to elevate it, that and the fire which cackles in the grate. You have only just finished stoking that very fire, and now you rise. You look to the princess who is lying in her bed, and you bid her a good night, as you have many nights past. With a neat courtesy, you turn to leave, but the princess's plaintive voice gives you pause. Wait, dear one, do not go, not just yet. Perplexed, you pause, then look back at the princess. Now she is smiling, her expression is unusually wan. Is she alright? Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. It's just nights like these, you know, which make me feel a little out of sorts. And what, you asked, does she mean by that? Only that it is so very cold and very dark, and it is very windy besides. I am afraid there will be a storm later. It was awfully cloudy earlier when we went for a walk. The princess is not mistaken about that. The sky, when the pair of you promenaded about the gardens earlier, was grey and steely, the wind bitingly cold. You can hear the wind rattling mournfully against the panes in the princess's bedchamber. The princess's castle is full of stone, and it is well fortified, but even with the fire, it is rather cold. You do not like to think of how much chillier by comparison it will be in your humble bedchamber, which is not fortunate enough to have its own fireplace. I see, so that was just a meaningless background, I see. It might sound childish, but I've always found it hard to sleep on stormy nights like this. They make me feel uncomfortable. You look at the princess with no small degree of sympathy. No longer clad in a bright red dress, she looks oddly, uncommonly vulnerable. Will she really be alright, all alone in her oversized bed, in a high-ceilingly bedchamber? You know it is silly of you to contemplate such a query. Why would she not be alright? There is nobody in the castle to hurt her, but still, you fret for her. As a lady's maid, it is your job to fret for her. You would never want your mistress to feel unhappy. You ask the princess what it is she would have you do, and the princess perks up at this, pleased, perhaps, that you are taking the initiative. I wouldn't like to take up too much of your time when it's so very late. But would you mind sitting with me a little while longer? Reading to me, provided that you can, of course. It is a fair enough question, but your pride bristles regardless. Hastily, you assure the princess that yes, of course, you could read. You were a poor student in many aspects at the conservatoire, but you had something of a gift when it came to the literary arts. Reading books is all you have ever been good at. Oh, I see. I suppose I should have known. You're so incredible, I sometimes wonder if there's anything you can't do. The princess's high praise makes you flush. Awkwardly, you look away. Being able to read, you assure her, is not such a great feat. Perhaps it isn't where you hail from, but it is here. Very few of my old servants could read, and they certainly couldn't read the books that I like. This piques your interest. Intrigued, you ask the princess what books exactly she likes. Oh, well, I'm glad you ask. I'm fond of fairy tales. You see, old ones from centuries past. I have a collection of them here, the princess says, indicating a book on the bedside table as thick as a mortuary slab. The book is old, though, and the bindings are weak. The page is brittle, the writing's woefully old-fashioned. I didn't trust any of my past servants with that book, but I think you would do a good job breathing life into these old stories. Would you mind reading to me, just for a brief while? Please, dear one, please. The princess's request seems a simple one, expressed sweetly. So much so, you see no reason to refute her. You take a seat beside the princess upon her luxurious bed, which sinks beneath your weight. Then you retrieve the leather-bound book, which is resting upon a bedside table, and spread it open. The pages of the book are very brittle, like the princess said, and the binding of the book are loose. You can feel in the heft of the book's manifold pages the weight of the ages concealed within it. How old is this book? Perhaps it is as old as the castle in which it resides. It is with a quiet voice, hesitant at first, that you begin to read to the princess a tale of courtly love which culminates in a lavish wedding ceremony. All the while as you read, the princess listens to you, enraptured, hanging, or so it seems, upon your every word. Once you reach the final phrase embossed upon the pages of this aged tome, and they lived happily ever after. And they lived happily ever after, the princess sighs, as though this tale has touched her very soul. Would that there was a handsome prince to marry me, she says somberly. Oh, better yet, a beautiful princess. At this point I think I would even settle for a lowly scullery maid. Hint, hint, wink, wink, hint, hint, wink, wink. You blush at this idle remark and mumble, softly, that this would not be proper. The storm outside is still squalling, and you have never been one to raise your voice. You do not expect, therefore, that the princess will overhear you, but she does. She observes you, her head resting against a pillar, and says, "And what would be the problem with that, As my maid, shouldn't my happiness come before any silly idea of propriety?" "Well, of course," you reply, "but for a princess to marry a scullery maid." "You're still hung up about that?" The princess titters. "Don't pay it too much heed, I'm just talking to myself. As if anything like that would ever happen, when there's no priest around who would obfuscate it." You think there are greater issues with the princess's plan than the lack of a priest, though she does present a good point. The castle is an empty one. Even if the princess were to find somebody she loves, there would be nobody to make such a wedding official. You cannot help but feel like you have avoided a good deal of a nuisance. But by the same token, do you not feel a touch disappointed? Well, never mind. Well, you don't really need to spread your eternalized homophobia to this princess. I have a feeling it will not end well. "That was a nice story," the princess says, "but I'm not sleeping yet, and it's still storming outside. Won't you read me some more?" "You would not mind," you reply, "but it is getting late. You really ought to return to your own chamber." "I know, but can't it find it in your heart to read one story to me? Just one? You can choose a shorter one. I won't complain." You have some doubts about that, but as before, you cannot resist the princess's demands. It is not, you think, because she's a princess, though that is, of course, a part of it, but because she is, well, radiant. You would not, you think, as you turn to the next story recounted in this age compendium, want to upset her. You would rather cut out your own tongue. Ay, ay, ay. You read another story to the princess, which is of a similar vein to the last, impossible adventures culminating at their close in a happy marriage. This tale delights the princess just as much as the tale you read prior, and she begs for another, and another. One bedroom story soon becomes 5, and then, when the candles which flicker on the princess's bedside are close to guttering out, the princess is not satisfied. Like a gasping, greedy child, she has never heard of moderation. When she wants something, she seeks to glut herself with it, her only request that of more. If she were less comely, perhaps her inability to add her to the word no would have been seen as a character defect. The princess is very comely, however, and so when she makes her next request, you almost agree offhand without considering the ramifications. I think I could go to sleep now, but the storm is still raging. I feel lonely on my own in this big empty bed, so... I know! The princess's eyes light up like the night sky in a thunderstorm. Why don't you sleep with me? You stare at the princess, your eyes wide as goose eggs. Slowly you blink. Then just as slowly, you bid her to repeat herself. Didn't you hear me? The princess giggles. Maybe you've been so busy cleaning up after me, you've neglected to clean out your own ears. I said, dear one, would you like to sleep with me? If that is the question she truly means to ask, then it is easy enough to answer. Of course you would like to sleep with her, it would be an honor. But would it really be alright for you to accept such an invitation? It must be a gross breach of protocol, surely, for a lowly domestic such as yourself to share a bed with a princess. Dear protagonist, who's the one who would punish you? Who? Where is the person who would punish you? I do not see them. Though, I guess the only person who would punish you is yourself. You sit upon the princess's bedside, fretting, while she observes with wide beseeched eyes. She is waiting. Well, what is the matter, dear one? Why do you tarry so? Could it be... The princess's lower lip begins to tremble. Don't you want to lie with me after all? The sorrow present in the princess's voice and in her face makes you feel awfully guilty. Hurriedly you console her. You tell her in no uncertain terms that if she truly wishes to partake in your company, then you have no qualms with it. Why would you? Well then, don't just stand here dilly-dallying, silly. Come and join me, come! And that is what you do, after returning briefly to your own chamber to change into your nightgown. Once dressed, you waste no time in returning to your impetuous princess's side. She's already lying in a glorious four-poster bed, awaiting your return as though you are a knight errant gone away to slay some wicked dragon. The princess giggles when she sees you. In your haste to change, you have made a hash of the buttons, and she bids you to come closer. Let me fix that for you, silly. Oh no, you say. I couldn't possibly let you do that. But I am but a servant after all. Should it not be your job to dress her? Maybe so, the princess says. But I don't mind a bit of a role reversal. Makes things more fun, You try a few more refutations, but in vain. The princess summarily discards all of them. Quite at the princess's mercy, she might be even more stubborn than you are. You capitulate to her demands. You You let the princess unbutton the front of your nightdress, then rebutton them, so the fabric of your plain gown is drawn shut. Satisfied with her handiwork, she has very elegant hands, the princess draws back and pats the mattress beside her. Now come in. Now come in. It must be horribly cold out there, but these sheets are warm. Coyly, the princess smiles. And so am I. You feel warm yourself as you slide into the bed beside the princess. Your face is as red as the gown the princess often wears, as red as the roses in the castle's grounds. All the while your heart is fluttering. Does the princess know what an effect she has having on you? Surely she must. How could anyone be so blind? There! The princess exclaims, once your body is lying beside hers. That is much better. Do you feel cozy now, dear one? You swallow, and with a shaky voice you reassure her. Yes, you are cozy. You are quite cozy indeed. Very good. The storm might be raging outdoors, but it can't get us out here. I know. When I'm with you, I'll be safe. It's strange, but... The princess reaches out, then takes your hand in hers, twining your fingers together like a chain. When I'm with you, I feel so very light. It's as though nothing in the world can hurt me. You make me feel safe, so I want to make you feel safe too. I'll take very, very good care of you, I promise. Which will involve which kind of trauma? You return a smile with one of your own, touched by her thoughtfulness, though something about the promise does make you wonder. Should it not be your job to look after her, as a domestic? In a way, the princess replies after a pause. But you've been taking good care of me already. Now I need to return the favor. As a princess, I'm supposed to look after my vassals. It's part of the job description. You are unaware that being a princess came with a job description. You thought the profession came with far fewer written responsibilities and far fewer forms to sign than, say, becoming a doctor or astrophysician or a mathematics professor. You tell the princess this, sheeply, and she laughs. You do say some funny things, dear one. I think you must be tired. Rest your head. You've been working so hard. I think you deserve it. Yes, you think, only half-conscious. You think you deserve it too. You have been working hard for a long time. I've been running for even longer. But now at long last, you feel like you can let your fears go. Your eyelids begin to droop, your body belligerent by sudden all-consuming fatigue. And in a quiet, understated sort of way, your consciousness is conveyed to a Morpheus kingdom. Your sleep is a deep one, despite the storm which rages outdoors. The wind is howling like a couple of wild cats, both locked in a vicious and bloodthirsty bout to the death, but you do not hear it. Swaddled by the warm blankets around you and soothed by the princess's presence, you are immune from all the ills of the world. When you are with the princess, you feel safe, secure, and, yes, you even feel loved. Okay, how is this gonna turn to shit now? It is a pity then that these feelings do not last for very long. Alrighty then, where are we? In the prisons. You know that something is wrong, catastrophically so, the moment you open your eyes. Your thoughts are hopelessly jumbled, but you are certain that when you fell asleep, it was in a bed, a nice, warm bed, no less. Beneath soft, comfortable sheets. You're not lying in a bed right now, though. You're not, in fact, lying at all. Well, I think we know where the servants are now. You're standing instead, against a cold, hard wall made of stone. The curve of your back is pressed against the wall so intimately you can feel its icy chill seeping through the fabric of your own nightgown. Your feet, which are bare, are similarly pressed against cold, unfeeling stone. You feel so frigid you cannot help but tremble. You are trembling so much you can feel your teeth clattering together. They sound like catanist. The sound is almost jaunty as it echoes through your cell, for that is indeed where you are. The princess's bedchamber, wherein you fell asleep, is a thing now of the past. You're standing instead, you realize, with a sharp start, in the cell of some great underground dungeon. You swallow, and when you do, you can taste something bitter on your tongue. Your stomach is beginning to churn with anxiety, rightfully so. You feel like you are going to be sick, a feeling which wells up inside you to a staggering degree when you catch notice of the stench. You are not, you realize, the only one in the dungeon. There are others here, others attired in the simple black and white outfit of servants, which look much like the dress that you once wore. The others who are with you, however, in this expansive cell, manacled to the walls, are in no fit state to speak to you, nor tell you of their plight. They are all unfeeling, unseeing, unbreathing. They are all dead. You cannot approach these servants to check their pulses, for you yourself are restrained, but even if you could, there would be no point. There's no way any human could survive the wounds which have been inflicted upon these sad slumped bodies. Over there you see a woman slumped, the front of her once white apron stained with blackish blood. There's a gaping wound in her stomach, one through which her entrails have half escaped, and some of the bungary goop which might once have been pale blink. There's another woman slumped beside the first of a smaller statue. She is skinnier. Maybe she's not a woman after all, but an adolescent like yourself. She might be even younger. The girl's age, or lack of, did not preclude her attacker from inflicting upon her horrors, unless her body is even more mutilated than the first. Her body is peppered with even more wails, and her face has been half smashed in. Only one eye remains, staring fixated at the wall opposite of her and the ruined remains of what was once her skull. Over there you see a woman who is missing both her arms and a lower jaw. Over there you see another who is missing her entire lower half. That sure is the horrors. You have been captured and sent to the horrors. Where have her legs gone? You have no idea. The injuries inflicted upon these bodies are ghastly, but their advanced decay is enough to turn your stomach. You know not how long these carcasses have been lying down here, but they have begun to putrefy. You fear a similar fate might befall you should you stay here. You need to escape. Dreadfully, you are struggling against the manacles which bind you, but alas, it is no use. You cannot free yourself from these walls. Your restraints are much too strong and you are much too weak. Panic rises up in your throat, cold and icy, while terror seizes your heart. This too is glacial. It is obvious that escape is impossible, but still you squirm and writhe, like a rat caught in a firestorm. There's little point, however, to your struggles. You succeed in nothing as you attempt to free yourself, save making the steel manacles dig into your abused wrist more sharply than ever. You gasp. That hurts. Well, you had to have known that would not work. The very definition of insanity is, performing a set action over and over again, hoping for a different response. In that sense, perhaps one could argue optimism is not so very different from insanity. Now, that is an interesting point to consider, would you not agree? Narrator, I think she's having different problems right now than to, like, partake in philosophical talks with you. No, evidently not. You are still trying to escape, you foolish girl, as if that will do any good. The conglomerous rattling of your steely restraints is rather starting to get on my nerves. You're making enough noise to raise the dead down there, in your dark, dainty cell, and all your screaming is hardly helping matters. Good God, narrator, you are so mean to her. I wish that you would cease this infernal racket, but I know you will not. Nothing I say could ever get through to you. Not that you have ever listened to me in the first place. Perhaps you would listen to her, though. Is she not your kind, considerate mistress? Alrighty then, what are you doing? Why are we down here? Look now, she has come all this way into the dark depths of the castle's cold, inhospitable dungeon to see you. Is that not kind of her? Oh, dear one! The princess thrills, entering the dungeon with a series of light, glittering steps. It would seem like you have finally awoken. How are you? Based on all the infernal racket you've been making, it would seem like you have no shortage of energy. Balefully you turn your head, so as to meet the eyes of the princess. She's standing but a few paces away, beneath the roughly hewn stone arch, which bids one entry, but rarely ever an exit to the dungeons. The dungeons are dull and drab, but the princess is wearing her favorite red dress. It is so bright and brilliant that for a few moments it hurts you to look at her. Once the red of the princess's outfit makes you think of romance. Now it makes you think of violence. You must forgive me for leaving you down here for so long. That was unfair of me. I did think of waiting here with you by your side until you awoke, but... Once again, the princess giggles, a light, airy giggle, which does not at all suit the situation in which you have found yourself. A dungeon is not a fit place, after all, for a princess. It is horribly cold here, and so very drab. There's nowhere nice and soft to lay my head. Ah, why are we here then? I could have brought my pillows down from my bed, I suppose, and my blankets. But then they would have gotten dirty, and that would be a disaster. I need to be more careful. I won't have anybody left to clean up after my messes soon, not when I've dispatched of you. Once again, the princess laughs. Her laughter is light and glittering, like the chiming of a silvery bell, but it does little to elevate your concern. If anything, it makes you feel even more alarmed. Did she say she meant to dispatch of you? Yes, that's right. Could you not tell? I thought you might have figured that out already after waking up in a dungeon, silly. Still smiling, the princess takes another step towards you. Would that you could. You would cringe away from her, but you cannot. You are completely powerless. Ooh, nice CG. The princess reaches out and places a hand upon your cheek. Her skin is very white, and though her touch is cool, it is less so than the frigid air in the dungeon. Though your body is aching, the princess's touch is gentle, and you find yourself leaning into it subconsciously. You wish she would keep holding you. You wish she would keep touching you. You luxuriate in a kindness as best as you can. But though the princess's caresses are tender, your circumstances are rather undermine them. How can you relax like this? Ah, you're such a good girl, the princess says, in a cajoling sort of voice, as one might address a cat. You've been so lovely to me while we've been together. I really couldn't ask for a better servant. I feel as though I've been spoiled. Why then, you ask her, is she doing this? Improbable though it sounds, she must be the one who chained you up. There's nobody else in the castle who could have committed such a feat. Everybody else is dead? Why yes, how very astute of you. I was the one who orchestrated all of this, naturally. Naturally, she says, as though her betrayal is a matter of course. Naturally. Why, you ask, is this so natural to her? What does she mean to do with you? Oh, only what I've done to all my other servants. I've experience with this sort of thing, so please don't worry. I'll take good care of you. And by taking good care of, she means... Naturally, I'll kill you. That is again that word which seems grossly inappropriate given all which has transpired. Naturally. There's nothing natural about this. Do you not think so? The princess examines you, her expression ponderous. It is natural to me, even if it isn't natural to other people. This just feels right. Imprisoning her servants in a dungeon and letting them die. Yes, exactly. There's a bit more to it than that, though. Oh, of course there is. I like you, dear one, the princess says in a voice which sounds uncommonly serious. You have been good to me, like I said, and kind. For that I will be eternally appreciative. You have been so good to me, in fact, that simply being with you is not enough. Not anymore. Your company can no longer content me. I'm a greedy, selfish girl, you see. The princess's smile widens into something sinister, her eyes flashing with a fiendish fever you have never before witnessed. And I don't want to feel you besides me. I want to feel you inside me. You know, you could have taken that, like, sexually, and I would have been alright. But no, this will be cannibalism. Yeah, she will eat you. Well, of all the things your charming captive could have said, you did not expect that. The princess, perhaps noticing your confusion, begins to giggle. A giggle even lighter than Marengo and just as airy. It is just as inoffensive. I can see that you don't understand, dear one, but you aren't the only one. My last lady's maid said that too. Vainly, the princess sighs, a beleaguered woe is me sigh, which makes her look even younger than the scant handful of years she truly possesses. And the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. I thought that you at least might be able to appreciate my point of view, but perhaps not. I don't think it should be too complicated to grasp, really. But maybe my way of looking at the world is a little bit unique. That's what my nurse always used to say, at least. When she still had the breath to speak, of course. You look at the princess. What else is there for you to look at, really? Your eyes are fixed to her face. She's still smiling, but there's something sinister about her smile. Or perhaps, in your anxious state, you are only imagining that there's something sinister about her smile. It is easy to see things which do not really exist when your surroundings are festooned in shadows. In actuality, however, the princess does not look any different to how she usually does. Neither is she acting any differently to the way she usually acts. She has not changed, it is only your perspective of her that has changed. Tremendously, you ask the princess what she means. A question the princess is only too happy to answer. Sipping? It's simple, really. Like I said, you were wondering, weren't you, why there weren't any guards or any servants in the castle when you first arrived here? The question had crossed your mind, yes? You are sure that the princess said her minister sent them away, though? Was that a lie? I wasn't being wholly truthful, no. I thought you would be afraid of me if you knew what had actually happened, and I didn't want that. I wanted you to stay with me. My ministers didn't send anybody away, because I don't have any ministers. I dispatched of them too. Did she now? You suppose you ought not to be surprised, but you still shudder regardless. My ministers weren't very fun, I'm afraid. They had a lot of ideas about what I should and shouldn't do after my parents died. The princess stares at you, her eyes wide like black holes, empty, yearning abysses. So I killed them. I killed my servants too, though I did a more thorough job with them than I did with my ministers. I did not care for my ministers, you see. They were all fuzzy old men, but I did love my servants. I loved my ladies' maids, and my undermaids, and my scullery maids, and my housekeeper, and my cooks, and my large retinue of retainers. They were like my family, they raised me, in my parents' absence, and I adored them. They were so very dear to me that I had no real choice. I had to eat them. Ah, you are Conchita from the story of evil. You are so Conchita. Does that follow? Not logically, no. Why, you asked the princess, your voice trembling, would you eat the people that you love? It seems a poor way to repay them for their kindness. Well, why wouldn't you eat the people that you love? I don't think there could be any greater way of showcasing one's gratitude, unless you have any better ideas. I do, in fact. You weren't expecting the princess to turn the tables on you quite like this, and dumbfounded you stare at her. You know precious little about love yourself, so it is hard for you to form a convincing rebuttal. But you muster up a few token arguments. You tell the princess that eating people isn't very nice, and neither is it strictly legal. The better way to showcase your gratitude to your servants would be with increased wages and increased holidays. The princess listens to your arguments, her expression astute, like a student poised to take notes in a very important lecture. Once you have finished, however, her concentration fails her. Her shoulders begin to shake, but it is not with remorse for what she has done. Instead, she is laughing. Oh, dear one, that's very funny. Why should I care about the law? I'm a princess. One day I'll be the queen. I am the law. That is a good point, but would eating people not turn the subjects against her? What subjects? I'm no fool, you know. No matter how I might act, and I know what happens beyond the castle's walls. I know all about the plague. Once I might have had the populace to govern, but they're all gone now. I'm a princess in nothing but name only. A monarch without any subjects. You have one gravedigger. Don't you think that's sad? I know I do. It's so woefully lonely. If she feels lonely, then why has she been so mystically slaughtering all of her domestics? It doesn't make a lick of sense. Perhaps not to you. Gently the princess caresses your cheek. But I shouldn't judge you too harshly. As much as I like you, dear one, you are a commoner. Perhaps you can't understand the intricacies of my thoughts. Privately, you doubt that anybody would be able to understand the intricacies of the princess's thought process, largely because it is unreasonable. You do not say that though. Instead, you ask her the only question you can think to ask, with your worry throat which is sore from shouting. Why? Why, you ask? The princess blinks. It's because I don't want you to leave me, of course. Everybody leaves sooner or later, whether they have pledged their alliance to me or not. It's simply the way of the world. People are fickle and inconstant, even to me, a monarch. That is why I decided to eat my servants. I had no choice, you see. It was the only way to ensure that they would never leave me. When you think about it, they should be grateful that I would demean myself so to consume their flesh and blood. I am a monogamous ruler, you see, and I treat all of my subjects equally. I love every single one of you. And naturally, I love you too. Haha. Ah. Yay, a confession. Youch. You have been awfully nice to me, and you are very pretty alongside it. If you were a plain ugly girl, perhaps I would not shower you with affection quite as intense as this, but you've captured my heart. I think you're lovely. So I'll bestow upon you the highest honor I can conceive of. I want your body to mix with mine, then we can stay together forever and ever. Man. The princess leans in. You can feel her soft silken hair brushing against your cheeks. You feel too the warmth of her breath as goes against your skin. It is cold in a dungeon, but the princess's close proximity is preserved, though this might sound something of a comfort. Her eyes are wide and her lips are so red. Her smile, meanwhile, is so sweet. I've been doing my best to fulfill the role that fate has dictated for me, but really... The princess exhales. Her eyes, which are boring into yours, are like two dark tarns. Finally, you think you can see in the alarming lack of light, the lack of anything. In the princess's gaze, some degree of humanity. It gets so lonely here. But in this brief flicker of understanding which passes between the pair of you is soon cut short. The princess dips her head. She parts her lips, which are as red as the petals of a carnivorous flower. You feel the princess's breath against your neck. It is warm in the icy chill of the dungeon, and you shudder from it. For a few moments you think that this overture of the princess's could be romantic in a way, but this too comes to a swift, merciless close. Ha 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 ha. Did you have to put that sound effect there? It's a bit uncomfy. The princess's mouth is on your neck. The princess's teeth, sharp as needles, are in your flesh. The princess is draining your blood. She is supping on it in great, greedy goblets, like a hungry animal. One who cannot truly comprehend the harm it is causing. Even as the princess sups from you, her arms twined around your waist, you find you cannot hate her. She's far too unworldly. You are sure, as your consciousness begins to fade, that the princess was being sincere when she spoke of her love for her past servants. This is simply the way the princess expresses this great love of hers, a love which is so very abundant, it bores into the monstrous. It is a love you never thought that you would ever experience. This love of the princesses eclipses anything you have ever known before. It eclipses sanity. It eclipses reason. It eclipses all notions you might have had of right and wrong. The princess, as you know fully well, does not care about such concepts. You have always possessed a stubborn core nestled beneath your weak-willed exterior, but the princess is even stubborner than you are. In the face of a love, you have met your match. The princess draws back. Desperately, you gasp for air, but she does not give you any quarter. As before, she dips her head, her red lips redder still with your blood, then splits apart her jaw. Her teeth, which are impossibly, inhumanly sharp, glint wickedly like knives. Then she tears out your throat. In front of your nightgown was white once. Now it is red. There's so much blood, you can smell it when you inhale, sharper than metal. It is so potent that you can taste it on your tongue. You try to inhale, but this task proves to be beyond you, what with the twin perforations that have ruptured your skin. You attempt to breathe. When they escape your lips, sound like sad, sorry wheezes. Your whole body, meanwhile, feels as though it is on fire. You make for quite a sorry sight indeed. But you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You did bring this upon yourself, you know. Man. You know, at least with the short one, I was like, yeah, okay, it might have been a bit stupid to follow her into the water. But this, I don't know if you can really blame her. You reap what you sow, and in your case, you made a series of bad decisions which led to your untimely demise. Now what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace, or will you try to fight against it? I would like to fight. That is a good answer. I must admit I like it. It is impressive how very defiant you can be, even in a situation as discomforting as this. Now try not to cry and keep your chin up. This is but a minor setback in your story. Well, the third setback. Like all fair maidens, you are deserving of your own happy ending. You need only the strength to try and seek it out. Why not give this another go? Just try not to ensnare the hearts of any more monarchs, particularly those with unusual appetites. You are destined for far higher purposes than being an untree, and there are vastly more enjoyable ways to be eaten in this world. Your fate is once again in your hands. Now I wonder, which path will you take? Give up? Man. But yeah, this is where I shall end the part now. But really? Giving up? Really? We shall see what giving up is giving us next time, I guess. I must say something about the princess's route feels stronger than the other two. Though I must say it is still a bit disappointing to be one of many servants who died like that. And not like the only one, big true love and stuff. But, no, something about it, I don't know what it is. Something about it feels bigger. Like, maybe it was the first route or the last route that was written, something about it maybe. I don't know, or maybe it was the inspiration which created this game in the first place, but something about it is special. I feel it, so to say. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. Next time we shall give up. So, until then, goodbye.